Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1 for this, our reactions to the Bahrain Grand Prix. We've already spoken all about the F2 and the F3 so far this weekend, so make sure you go check those ones out as well. But it's now time to talk about the F1. Before we get into that, remember to like and subscribe. And a huge shout out to the members: Dakota, The Joyous James, Robin Myers, Cinnamon Strudel, Michael Johnson, F, Mr. Eurovision 1986. Is there anyone else that I've forgotten? I sure hope not. I think we're okay. I think that was everyone. My goodness, we're getting too many members. I'm forgetting their name. If you want to become a member, click the link in the description on the Patreon or on the YouTube. And that was a very fun race. I enjoyed that one quite a bit. I've got considerably more notes this time than I did this time last week to get through, because that one was a bit more fun. We have Oscar Piastri on pole position, Charles Leclerc alongside him. Of course, it was George Russell who qualified second, but both George Russell and Kimi Antonelli were given one-place grid penalties due to not following the race director's instructions after the red flag of Q2. Before the restart time was announced, they were already queuing in the pit lane, so they were given a one-place grid penalty. Personally, I feel that was a bit uncalled for. I understand penalising it, but that should be a team penalty, not a driver penalty, because that has nothing to do with the drivers. I think that should have been a fine, but that's the choice they made, so there it is. George Russell moves down to third, which of course promotes Charles Leclerc to the front row. Kimi Antonelli moves down to fifth, which promotes Pierre Gasly to a fantastic fourth place. Our championship leader heading into this race is Lando Norris. He starts in a disappointing sixth, with Max Verstappen right behind him. In terms of tyres, it was medium tyres for Leclerc, Hamilton, Alonso, Lawson and Bortoletto. Everyone else on the softs. And as the lights go out, it's a fantastic start for George Russell, who's able to get up past Charles Leclerc and is alongside Oscar Piastri at one point until he locks up. Piastri takes the lead from there. A fantastic start as well for Lando Norris, who was up to third place. Charles Leclerc falling down to fourth place, and Ollie Behrman makes some good moves as well. He started from 20th. At the end of the first lap, he'd gained 5 places up to 15th. But Lando Norris's fantastic start, one of the reasons may have been due to it being a false start. We see the replay eventually, and his car was considerably ahead of where his box was. Not a massive amount, but he was ahead from there, and eventually did get a 5-second penalty for that. So we have moves all over the place in this race. Bahrain, very much a track where you can overtake. Carlos Sainz starts to fall down the grid here. Antonelli gets past him, then Verstappen gets past him as well. Hadjar was the first to pit on lap 7. This is when Norris gets his false start penalty. And this is when I noticed something quite interesting about the McLarens, and it kind of carries over from when we had testing in Bahrain, where their good sector times were the sector 2. But in Sector 1, they would be down on other teams. And what I noticed here was Norris was trying his best to get past Russell. Now, the McLaren, easily the faster of the two cars, and he had DRS, but he was still struggling. It seems like the McLaren does not have the straight line speed of the other cars, such as the Ferraris or the Mercedes, and that is something that we do see throughout the rest of the race here, where Norris is trying to make moves. It takes him considerably longer than you would first expect. Antonelli gets past Gasly for P5 on lap 10, and this is where people start to pit. Norris comes in on lap 11, as does Gasly and Max Verstappen. Verstappen has a bad stop, 4.7 seconds for him. Looks like the pit exit light was broken. We see that on Tsunoda's pit stop as well. They pit Max to the hard tyres, which do not work at all. On lap 13, we see Antonelli pit. Russell pits on lap 14 and still comes out ahead of Norris. Norris pitting a few laps earlier, but also serving that penalty as well. Piastri pits on lap 15, comes out ahead of Russell and Norris, and then Max Verstappen under a hell of a lot of pressure from Kimi Antonelli. It was great to see these two go wheel to wheel for what I believe is the first time. But yeah, great to see these two together at that point in the race. As Charles Leclerc is calling for the team to make a swap to a one-stop strategy, the team say, no, we're not doing that. He pits from the lead on lap 18. It's a double stop for the Ferraris. Lewis Hamilton was about 9-10 seconds behind. He comes in as well. They both pit to the mediums, cementing them both on a two-stop race. Antonelli gets past Max Verstappen on lap 20 for P7, and 3 laps later, Lewis Hamilton gets past Verstappen as well. Verstappen massively struggling on those hard tyres, as basically everyone who went on the hard tyres did, apart from Ollie Behrman. I think of all the drivers in the race today, the only one who I saw doing well on the hard tyres was Ollie Behrman at the midpoint of this race. Charles Leclerc, though, has some fantastic pace at this point and has DRS on the back of Lando Norris and gets past him instantly, but then goes deep into turn 1 and has to give the position back. But a lap later, he has passed Lando Norris, and Lewis Hamilton has passed Kimi Antonelli for P7. So Leclerc now up to 3rd, with Norris going down to 4th. And again, I think that is the discrepancy in straight line speed from the McLaren to the Ferrari, and again to maybe the Mercedes and the McLaren later on. But yeah, Lando Norris, when he was stuck behind Leclerc later on, or when he was stuck behind stuck behind Russell at the start or the end of the race, it seemed like it was taking forever for him to even get alongside. And that might just be him being a bit cautious, but it seems like the McLaren straight line speed isn't necessarily there. Whereas Leclerc here just goes for it, has an attempt on one lap, doesn't make it work. The next lap, he's doing it again, and he makes it work for himself. Also, at this point, the Ferraris were absolutely flying. Lewis Hamilton passes Ocon for P6. They did stay out a little bit longer, of course, which means that, at this point, people were struggling on their tyres. Their tyres were a bit fresher, but the Ferraris, at the midpoint of the race, were the cars were the cars on the track. They certainly were. But they were the ones that were performing the best at that point. Max Verstappen comes into the pits to take off those hard tyres on lap 27. Another bad pit stop, though, for him. This time not about the pit light, but instead the front right tyre just not coming off. And something interesting on this that I can talk about was a few weeks ago, I went to this event which was to do with Callum Nicholas's book, which I have here. I'm like a quarter of the way through. I've been distracted. I will get to it at some point. But yeah, he was doing this evening with Callum Nicholas type thing. I've dropped my pen. He was doing this evening with Callum Nicholas. We were talking about his book and his career and asking questions and all this kind of stuff. And something that he brought up about Red Bull this year is, for the first time ever, Red Bull do not have a set pit crew for every single race this year. Whereas before, whenever he's worked in the pit crew, the person to his right and the person to his left, every single time, has been the exact same person. This year round, because it's so many races, and these people have families and lives, it's kind of on a rotation. So not every member of the pit crew for Red Bull will be at every single race. So does that... He says that would slow down their pits, which it has. Their pit stops have gotten slower. This is the second weekend in a row now where Red Bull have had a considerably slower pit stop. Is that the correlation? Well, obviously there has the other thing here. The light didn't work. This looked like a wheel gun issue, maybe. Who knows? But that is something worth keeping in mind here. Red Bull have changed their approach to the pit crew for their better own mental health and family lives, but a 6.2 second pit stop is the result of it here, with Max Verstappen coming out dead last on the track. Kimi Antonelli pits on lap 28 and goes to the soft compound tyres. That's not going to stay for the rest of the race at all, so he's cementing on a free stop at this point. Alpine do a double stop on lap 29, and there is contact between Sainz and Yuki Tsunoda into turn 1. Yuki Tsunoda just slides into the side of Carlos Sainz's car. We don't see it for a while, but there was a huge hole in his side pod from this point onwards. And yeah, Sainz just goes backwards from here. He was looking in a good position up until this point. But yeah, when you see the damage that he had on the side of the car, it's no surprise that he started to struggle from this point on. There is a safety car here, a full course safety car for the debris. I don't think it needed a full course safety car. I think, we have the virtual for a reason. I think this could have been a virtual safety car, but they elect to go for the full course safety car, and the pits get incredibly busy at this point. In fact, it's easier to list out the names who did not pit. Those who stayed out were Verstappen, Gasly, and Ocon, and that was it. As we go for the restarts behind the safety car, our top 5 is Hamilton in 5th, Norris in 4th, Leclerc in 3rd, Russell 2nd, Piastri 1st. And what's interesting about this is it's 3 different teams in the top 10, and they're on 3 different compounds of tyres. So you had Hamilton and Leclerc, your 2 Ferraris on the hard tyres, Piastri and Norris, your 2 McLarens, are on the mediums, and George Russell was on the softs, with a hell of a way to go from here. Safety car ends on lap 36 of 57, and immediately Lewis Hamilton passes Lando Norris. It looked like Charles Leclerc had a bad restart. He seemed to drop away from Russell quite considerably. Norris goes on the attack of Russell, and Leclerc defends very well, but Hamilton is able to swoop in there as well. And as they exit turn 2, Hamilton is ahead of Lando Norris. But then Lando Norris comes back, gets the place back, but Lewis Hamilton says it's off track. Norris is told to give the place back, and he does. For me, this was a very close call. It did not go to the stewards. McLaren decided to handle it themselves and just give the place back, so it didn't go to the stewards. Personally, from the onboard, it looked like he hadn't crossed that little blue line that was on the curb. So I think that they could have maybe got away with it, but I understand why they didn't want to try that one from there. So Norris lets Hamilton go back past lap 38. That's when he got past again. So Norris lets him go past, takes the place back again. Hamilton says he's starting to struggle on the hard tyre, as most people have done. And then Lawson gets his first penalty of the day, a 5-second penalty for causing a collision. I thought it was on Lance Stroll initially, but then they show another collision with Hülkenberg. And I thought, okay, it's for that one. But later on, they show that he got a different penalty again for another collision, but didn't show that one. So I imagine this is the Stroll penalty for the collision, and later on is for the Hülkenberg penalty for the collision. Lots of collisions for Lawson, not having a good time. Lando Norris's DRS on Charles Leclerc now on lap 44. There is a 10-second penalty for Carlos Sainz for forcing another driver off the track. This was Kimi Antonelli into turn 10. Just a big lock-up from him there and pushing Antonelli fully off the track. I think he went off the track himself, and it just gets worse for Sainz here, who just retires the car. I mean, when you see the damage he has, that's understandable. The question I have here is he didn't serve his penalty. That 10-second time penalty was never served, so will that be transferred into a grid penalty for the Saudi race? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, the one that springs to mind immediately was Checo Perez, was it last year or the year before in Japan? Where he had a penalty, he retired, they unretired the car, served the penalty, and retired again. So, it's the kind of thing that has happened in the past where your penalty, if you don't serve it, gets carried over. So that's one to watch out for the Williams team. Lando Norris now, going for the move on Charles Leclerc, gets alongside him into turn 1 on the outside, but then locks up the tyres, goes deep into turn 1. Leclerc goes on from there. Jack Doohan was having a good race until he wasn't. He was 10th, but he loses 3 places in the matter of 3 corners here, so was not going too well from there on out. Norris goes for the move again. Charles Leclerc pushes him out wide onto turn 4. Norris comes on the radio, says that he's been pushed off the track. I think he could have had an argument here, but it never even went to the stewards. Russell now, my goodness, Russell, what a fantastic race for him. Lots of issues, though. It seems like everything was going against him at the end of this. There was a massive issue with the timing tower about 3/4 of the way through the race, and it seemed to all stem from George Russell. They had no idea where his car was. It was going up and down the timing tower all the time. And then from there, he had a DRS issue, which could have been a mechanical issue, but also could have been due to the fact that they didn't know where his car was. So they didn't know if he was within a second or not of anyone. And then they were told that he might lose the dashboard display. And then he said he had gearbox issues. This is all in the closing laps of the race. Meanwhile, Lando Norris finally gets past Charles Leclerc for P3. That's on lap 52, after he first initially got DRS on him on lap 44, so a long time there. Russell is noted here for a DRS infringement that's going to be looked at after the race, saying that he opened his DRS when he shouldn't have. He may get a penalty for that. That is what we'll have to wait and see what happens. We get another 10-second penalty here for Lawson for causing the collision. No idea what collision that was. It could have been one of many. But now this DRS issue seems to affect other people as well. Norris was told on the radio that not to open DRS unless he was told by a team that it was okay to, because they weren't sure if he was within 1 second. Again, that could be because he was behind George Russell. Into the final lap here, and Norris is going for this on Russell again, into turn 1 on the last lap, but a fantastic defence from George Russell keeps him behind, and as we cross the line, Oscar Piastri takes the win, the first repeat winner of 2025. George Russell keeps P2. Lando Norris is third, Charles Leclerc in fourth, Lewis Hamilton fifth, Max Verstappen is sixth, Pierre Gasly in seventh, Esteban Ocon in eighth, Yuki Tsunoda ninth, Behrman 10th, Antonelli 11th, 12th for Albon, 13th for Doohan, Hulkenberg 14th, Hadjar 15th, Alonso 16th, Lawson 17th, Stroll 18th, Bortoletto 19th. Our only DNF of the day is Carlos Sainz. Let's go through this a little bit here. Oscar Piastri, our first repeat winner, our first repeat pole sitter of the year. Pretty much perfect from him today. Didn't set a foot wrong all weekend, has been fantastic. I think the gap in the championship now is 3 points. Lando Norris is still leading the championship, but I believe only by 3 points. George Russell, absolutely outstanding. This might be one of his best races, if not his best race ever, I think. He's turned up from the start. His qualifying was amazing. He got that one-place grid penalty. He got that place back immediately, almost challenged for the lead at the start of the race. Then, yes, comfortably was in that position, couldn't fight Piastri, he was way too far gone, but just kept that P2 really well, had every issue under the sun thrown at him, but managed it really well, and kept Norris behind. And let's talk about Norris, because if you see on paper P6 to P3, you go, that's an okay recovery for Lando Norris there. But my God, did he take the long way round to get to this recovery here. Because, I mean, oh God, I get the feeling that if you're a Lando Norris fan, you may not enjoy watching my videos, because I feel like sometimes I'm a bit harsh on him. But the thing is, when you come into a season with the fastest car, and you're the favourite for the championship, the expectations are quite high. And you know, when you are the championship favourite, the championship leader, in the fastest car, it's unacceptable to be qualifying 6th when your teammate is on pole. It's unacceptable to be putting your car too far forward in your start box at the start of the race. You know, it's unacceptable to be having a huge lock-up into turn 1 whilst you're battling a Ferrari and potentially losing that position. It's unacceptable to be being passed by a different Ferrari on a safety car restart. I mean, there was so... I've thrown my pen away again. I'm so agitated by it all. But, like, there was so many mistakes again and again and again. And we see this all the time from Lando now. And in a matter of 2 races, I think he's lost the favourite moniker. I think it's Oscar Piastri now. Oscar Piastri has made one mistake all season. That one corner in Australia. Well, let's not forget, Lando also made a mistake, but just got luckier. You know, that's been his only mistake all year. So from here on out, I don't think Lando Norris is the favourite anymore. I think Oscar Piastri has become the championship favourite. There are 3 points between the two of them. We are entering the last race of a triple header in Saudi Arabia next weekend. Who's to say? I would put money on it now that coming out of it, Oscar Piastri will be our championship leader. We'll have to wait and see. Come back next week to find out from there. But like I said, it's a good recovery, but he went all around the houses to get there. And the fact of the matter is, he should have been at least second. You know? When you see the pace that he had, and he just threw it away. He gave himself a stupid 5-second penalty. He took forever to overtake slower cars. It's just struggling here. I'm just like... Because we went into this weekend and we were expecting the duel in the desert, you know, the Rosberg-Hamilton battle of a few years ago. But this time, Piastri and Norris. And the thing is, they never even really shade. I'll say that line again because I messed it up. And I thought it was a good line in my head and I messed it up. Here we go. And the thing is, they never even really shared the same tarmac. They weren't in the same race. He was 20 seconds down the road. Norris was never even in contention. And it's just disappointing from what we want and what we're getting. And like I said, I no longer would put Lando Norris as championship favourite, because last weekend he should have won and Max Verstappen won, and that's on Piastri as well. Piastri should have done better last weekend. But this weekend, it should have been the most dominant 1-2 you've ever seen, and instead it's first and third, and I don't think that's good enough. But Piastri did his job, so there you go. Good points for Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton in 4th and 5th, but for the third race weekend in a row, Driver of the Day confuses me, because Lewis Hamilton did not deserve it. Crofty tried to twist it at the end, being like, oh, it's his highest finish position in a Ferrari car. So, it's 5th. Russell did better, Piastri did better, Gasly did better. It's like there's lots of question marks around here. A big question mark on Max Verstappen as well. I mean, my God, he struggled all weekend. The Red Bull has just not been there. He got Pierre Gasly in the end. Due to the timing glitches that we were having, it made it look like Verstappen overtook Gasly on the line. He didn't. He got him on turn 4, I think, on the last lap. But yeah, 6th for Max Verstappen. I think realistically he might be quite happy with that, which is a shocking thing to say, that Verstappen will be happy with 6th. Pierre Gasly gets the first Alpine points of the year. Fantastic weekend from him. Ocon in 8th makes more good points for Haas. Yuki Tsunoda gets his first points as a Red Bull driver, and the first time the second Red Bull has scored points since the Las Vegas Grand Prix of 2024. Ollie Behrman gets the final points position in 10th. Kimi Antonelli, I imagine, might be quite disappointed with 11th, because for the first half of his race, he was absolutely fantastic. He was flying, he was getting some really good overtakes on the board, he seemed really, really quick, but in the second half of the race, he just disappeared, and eventually had to settle for 11th place. Albon was 12th, as I said. Jack Doohan was looking good until the end of the race. It kind of all fell apart from there. Hulkenberg 14th, Hadjar 15th, Alonso 16th, Liam Lawson in 17th, and then Bortoleto and Stroll. How they got beaten by Lawson when he had a million different penalties, I'll never know. But there you go, that is it. That is the Bahrain Grand Prix. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. We will have the driver ratings out tomorrow, so look out for that. Then on Tuesday, we take our trip back to 1981 with a stop-and-go F1 retro review of 1981, the Monaco Grand Prix. Then next weekend, we're back to do all this all again for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Lots to come on the channel. I will see you then. Until next time, have a good one. Goodbye.